Most people today are one bad day away from needing to be saved. I decided a long time ago I didn't want to live that way. One of my core principles is never need anything. Society puts us in a place where we're dependent on everything. Today I want to talk about how these principles can make you truly free. So this is number 2 in 5 videos of starting the new channel, The Independent Man. If you haven't watched that old video, check it out and subscribe so you can watch the rest of them. So what do I mean by this principle, I never need anything? I'm not putting myself in a place of pride saying that I don't depend on other people and saying that I don't need anything at all. Obviously, I do need things. This is a principle that we're going to break down and explain what it can do for your life and is how it has helped me to be debt-free and helped me run multiple businesses, debt-free businesses, and to have a very successful business now, and to be in a really good place. I love the place we're in. I love the farm that we run, and I have a wonderful wife and a very wonderful life, and I'm very, very happy. To me, I'm living my dream. So I want to break down how this principle has helped me and what it can do for you. Never need anything for me started several years ago. When I moved out of my mom's house, I moved into my brother's house, and I was very dependent on him. Before that, I was very dependent on her. Now, obviously, everyone as a kid is dependent on their parents. But even afterwards, I was very dependent on my brother. And then I had to get a loan and had to learn to weld. And there were many instances where I was very dependent on the world. And that's just normal. This is a process that you're moving towards. You're moving towards becoming more and more independent. And you're doing it with this principle of never need anything. And so that's kind of like the beacon, the North Star that I was looking at, because I decided that my biggest issue is I was constantly needing something. And what I mean is it's not that I needed it, it's that I had to have it that day. So it put me into a place where if I was at a bad job, I couldn't quit that job because I had to pay bills. I had to continue to eat. I was constantly in a place where I had to just do everything. Why? Because I needed everything today. I needed it. I had to keep the job whether I wanted it or not. It didn't matter how bad my boss was. I had to stay in the house that I was living in, whether I wanted to or not. I had to do everything today. The bills had to be paid now. The gas had to, my gas had to be put in the car today. I didn't have any reserve for money. I didn't have any backup plans. So I sought out this principle of never need anything. And what it means is, first of all, the simple side is you're saving money, you're putting money back, you're living below your means. That's the simple part. That's the part that is pretty gimmicky here on YouTube, is all of these basic principles. And they're good principles. They're important. So a good example is right now I work part-time as a welder. And I work part-time for multiple companies. Now I could work part-time for one company, or I could work full-time for one company. But being part-time makes me as flexible as I can possibly be. Number one, I have time to run my business. My wife runs part of it for me, and it puts me into a complete place of flexibility. It means that I need nothing in that area, okay? Not only that, it puts me in a place where all of the employers, every person that I'm working part-time for, they understand that they're competing for me. Now, that doesn't mean that I can just be useless. I still have to have value, and that's the other piece of never needing anything, okay? So I work for all of these different companies part-time as a welder, and I have to elevate my skills. Part of this is bringing yourself up and elevating yourself and constantly improving yourself, making yourself better in every way, so that you are now the one that's needed, okay? So that's part of it for me, is I'm making myself valuable enough, and I'm continually honing my skills and educating myself. I'm not going into a job as I see some welders do. And once they're good enough, they fall asleep in that place. Once they're good enough, they never improve. So I'm constantly improving. Okay. So having these multiple different jobs, I've got multiple different backup plans. So I don't need any of them. If any one of them becomes a bad job, or if a boss becomes uh, to where he's not treating me right, or he's expecting things that I'm not going to do, or if it becomes dangerous, at any point, I don't feel the need to stay there. I can leave at any point. The other aspect of this is not putting myself into too much debt. So I'm either going to have no debt, which is how most of my life has been, or I'm going to have very smart and controlled debt. I'm only going to have debt on things that make sense, and I'm going to have, and the amount of debt that I have is a controlled amount, meaning that any aspect, I have multiple aspects of revenue, multiple aspects of income coming in. And any one of those multiple aspects, any one of those sources of income can pay for that small bit of debt that I have. But the debt also has to make sense, meaning it needs to be making money for me, or at least it needs to be something that's such a high asset that it's worth having that debt. And it's a low interest rate as well. Back to the jobs. Having multiple jobs in one business or multiple business streams, like for instance, one of them is this YouTube channel. This is another source of income for me. I've had this YouTube before. This is a rebranding, and I have current subscribers that are here, and this is a source of income for me. Okay, that's not why I do YouTube, but it is a source of income, and that gives me a sense of bulletproofness, if you will. It puts me in a place. It's one more level of never need anything. So why the multiple jobs, multiple part-time jobs, also puts me in a place where all of these employers can see me and they are competing for me. Okay, it's easy to slip under the rug, especially if you're a good employee. Okay, which is something that I strive hard to be. I strive very hard. I always look at the world as I am doing all things as unto the Lord. And that means that if I'm at work, I'm still doing that as unto the Lord. So if that employer is a bad employer, I still have to do a great job. I still have to do it because I'm not doing it for myself. So since I have that mindset, it's very important for me to have multiple options. And it's very important to remember that when you work for somebody, it's easy for a good worker to slip under the rug. But if you set yourself in a place where they have to see you, you set yourself in a place where they're not just looking at you because you're a good employee, but they have to know who you are, then you're going to get raises and you're going to elevate yourself and you're going to move up in a company. Okay. That has worked very well for me across multiple companies. Now, I've had to say no to companies. I've had to leave companies. And there are times that that's another thing, is that because I work part time for many companies, I have to turn all of these companies down at some point or another. I always have to turn somebody down. And nothing makes somebody remember you more than turning them down, but only if you're worth having. If you're not worth having and you turn someone down, that means nothing. So if you're a 19-year-old boy with no skills at this point, and you're hearing this and you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to turn them down, that's not going to work out for you. But if you are somebody with skills, you have showed them these skills, and now you turn them down because you're busy, that is going to be memorable. They're going to understand your value, and they're going to want you, and they're going to want to move you up in the world. And we can expand more on any one of these subjects if you want. Part of the never need anything aspect for me personally is having something that is mine, some way that secures me. Now, personally, I have started a homestead a while back ago, and we also have a farm business, regenerative agriculture business. And that's what our previous channel was about. And in that business, the business is paid off and we're secured. But we're also, because of our homestead, we set up certain things in that homestead that makes us to where we need less. That doesn't mean that we don't need anything. I still need God. I still need my wife. And there are still things that I need. What it means is that it makes less and less things that I need today. Never need anything today. Don't need that job today. Don't need money today. Make sure you have some reserved. Don't need food today. Make sure you have some food put back. Don't need gas in your car today so bad that you're willing to do whatever it takes, or you're willing to do something suboptimal, or you're willing to take a suboptimal opportunity. And that doesn't mean that as a young man or a young woman that you don't go out and work hard. That doesn't mean that sometimes you don't sacrifice. That doesn't mean that sometimes you don't put yourself in a place that's going to that isn't exactly where you want to be. Sometimes you do have to. There are many times I've had to go and do things I didn't want to do. And I still have to do things I don't want to do. But I am in a place now where I do less of those things that I don't want to do. And I do more of the things that I do want to do and that I do enjoy doing. And that's because I've set these principles. Never need anything. Never need anything. Don't put yourself in a place. Don't get so much debt that when your boss is horrible, you have to keep that job. Don't get so much debt that no matter how bad things are, you have to just keep pushing yourself forward. Because what that does, especially for a man, now I can't speak to women in this place because I'm not a woman, but what that does to a man when you are forced to stay in a situation that your gut, your soul, everything in you, every fiber in your being is telling you, leave. When you are forced to stay in that place and it's your fault, then that lowers you mentally. That makes you think. That makes you feel less. And when a man feels less, he becomes less because his confidence goes down. Everyone sees his confidence go down. And then he reacts based on that. Now, I'm not telling you to do that. Ideally, you don't do that. I'm telling you what we do as men. So don't put yourself in a place where you're going to have to make a decision that's not best for you. Next time you're thinking about buying that awesome truck because you want to impress the girl next door, think about what is it going to do? Is it going to put you into debt? Is it going to put you into a bad place where when life gets bad and that employer that's watching you and knows that you just bought that truck and he starts expecting more out of you and expecting things out of you that aren't fair, and you come to him and say, well, I need a raise, but then he says no, and you have no choice but to just take it. And for a lack of words, you become a simp. Okay? You do not put yourself in that place. So think about that next time you buy that truck. Next time you're thinking, I'm going to do something that's above my means. Now, I'm not saying that we homestead and that we just do things that are below our means and we live our entire life basically poor. Because living never needing anything also has an aspect of investing for the future. It is constantly thinking, what do I do now that if I did it now, when it becomes important, I won't have to hurry up and do it. Because as humans, what we want to do, it's easy to hurry up and get something that's a high priority done. If it's high priority and very urgent, it's easy. Most humans tend to be fairly good at that. What most humans are not good at is getting the things done that are high priority but low urgency. They're not that important today. They will be important, but they're not that important today. And we tend to put those things off and push them away. And the aspect of never need anything is to continually be staying in this place where we are always working today on the things that are high priority and low urgency. There's a lot more that could be expounded on this, and we'll talk more about this throughout this channel. If you subscribe, you'll see a lot more of this, and we're going to go into much deeper depth. We're going to talk more about the jobs that we've done. We're going to talk more about the business side. We're going to talk more about how every aspect of my life, I'm constantly moving towards a little bit more security, a little bit more freedom, a little bit more. I'm constantly thinking in that mindset of never need anything. It's beyond just being a prepper. It's beyond just being a multi-billionaire, far beyond what anybody can imagine. It's beyond all of these things. It's the mindset that says, I'm constantly looking at that next step. And it's so easy to get on YouTube and hear all of these gimmicky channels. And all they're telling you is, oh, well, you need to just figure out how to get rich. You need to figure out how to make passive income. You need to figure out how to be so wealthy that no one else ever matters. That's not what this is. If that's what you're looking for, you're in the wrong place. This is realistic for you. This is what works for you, whether you are at the bottom or whether you're at the top. This is a set of principles that will work for you from today and forever. So what does this principle do for you? It puts you in a place where you are confident. It puts you in a place where you're constantly ready to say no, which is way more powerful than being in a place to say yes. You're not worried that you're going to lose your house. You're not worried that your family is going to be hungry or cold or wet. But it puts you in a place where no matter what, you always have the upper hand. So where do you start? Pick one place in your life where you know that you can become better. Pick one place. In worst case, if you are overwhelmed with debt and you can't get out of the debt, try to get out of the debt. Start focusing on that. If you're in a place where you're in a job that you hate, then start working on becoming more valuable. Now, that doesn't mean that you can become more valuable at that job, because it's possible that employer does not value you. But that's why you're working on the debt. That's why you're working on how to get away from that. You're working on putting yourself in a place where you do not have to have that job anymore. So start with your money, your finances, your debt, and your job. You want to start with those things. Get yourself to a place where you're not overwhelmed with debt. Get your job situation to where your employer values who you are. This is not going to happen overnight. And get yourself to where you're valuable enough to where your time is actually worth enough money to slowly elevate you and move you up somewhere. This is going to take time. This is not a sprint. This is a slow walk forward. The world sets us up to be bound in a job. The world sets us up to be bound in I have to go to college, or I have to have a certain education, or it sets us up to be bound in I have to have a house today, or I have to have a house by a certain time, or I have to have this, or I have to have that, or I have to have the other thing, or I have to have this perfect truck. Everything that the world does, especially in our American society, is setting us up to be enslaved, setting us up to no longer be free. Never need anything. Let that be your beacon of light. Let that be your North Star with every decision that you make. Is this going to put me in a place where I'm going to be in a bad place tomorrow? Is this going to set me up tomorrow to where I'm elevated and I don't need anything? Or is this going to set me up tomorrow where I have to be a simp to my boss, or to my wife, or to my girlfriend, or I have to put myself in a place where I have to do something that I was never intending to do, where I have to do something that is not really who I am? I hope that you're strong enough to choose the latter, because I know that some of you are, or you wouldn't be watching this video. If your goal is to improve yourself, then come with me and subscribe.